The Marinade.
There's no O in marinade. Let's try it one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
The Marinade.
Marinade.
Bone marinade. The
That's
Marinade.
The Marinade. With Jason Earle. Welcome to The Marinade with Jason Earle, a free-flowing conversation about the creative process with creative people. This is episode 122, and our guest is Langhorne Slim. Y'all, this is a special episode on several levels. I am so excited to bring you my intimate conversation with Slim, but first we're going to do something a little different. Our good friends Jordan Foley and the Wheelhouse have been hard at work on a new album, and you're about to hear a premiere of the first single from that record. The song is called Loners, and it is my favorite thing Jordan and the guys have made. The record is produced by Thomas Wynn of Thomas Wynn and the Believers, who was able to harness the strengths of Jordan Foley and the Wheelhouse to create a new sound for the band that I think y'all are going to love. Jordan and I will be sitting down to talk about the process of making these songs later in the year, but until then, and before our conversation with Langhorne Slim, enjoy the debut of Loners by Jordan Foley and the Wheelhouse.
Oh, lately life has been pretty easy, and everything's been going my way. And the city lights, they guiding me through, except for when it comes to you. I can't stress this anymore, and I'm gonna walk out that door. But this bad love ain't doing no good. I simply wish you understood. I'm a loner on the road, going down it all alone. I don't need you anymore to muck up and fuck up in this course. Oh, you think you got it all figured out, like it's a marathon with all the doubts. Oh, the forest is calling me, so just go and let me breathe. I don't like it when you scream and shout. I don't know what that's all about, but you leave me here with nothing except the whiskey and this diamond ring. I'm a loner, he's a loner on the road, going down it all alone. I don't need you anymore to bitch out and switch out in this chord. I'm a loner, he's a loner on the road. I'm a loner, he's a loner on the road. I'm a loner, he's a loner on the road, going down it all alone. I don't need you anymore to muck up and fuck up in this cold. I'm a loner on the road, and 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 I'm a road, and I'm a loner on the road, and I'm a loner on the road, I'm a loner on the road.
That was the debut of Loners from our good friends Jordan Foley and the Wheelhouse, y'all. What a song. Give them a follow on your socials and at jordanfoleymusic.com. The single will be available on streaming services this coming Friday, January 13th, 2023. In the meantime, if you want to listen to Loners again, and I bet you do, then go over to marinadepodcast.com/the magazine. I'm so proud of Jordan and the Wheelhouse and Thomas Wynn for this amazing work they've put together. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to premiere it here. All right, y'all, now on to my conversation with our guest, Langhorne Slim. Slim is a singer and songwriter from Pennsylvania whose work has been lauded by The New Yorker, Rolling Stone, The Guardian, and many more. Conan O'Brien is among his obsessive fans. He has a fascinating mind and a sweet spirit that he channels into some of the most beautiful songwriting of a generation. We caught up with Langhorne Slim at the incredible Orange Blossom Review Festival in Lake Wales, Florida in December of 2022. Slim's music has meant a lot to so many of us, including my dear friend and collaborator Jen Ross, who was fortunately covering the festival with me and was able to sit in on the conversation. You will also hear questions from our friend and Patreon patron Jordan Conant as well. This was just a true Marinade community effort, and I'm so grateful for everyone who continues to support this thing. Y'all, it is my great honor to bring you my conversation with Langhorne Slim.
On the road, and I'm a loner. On the road, and I'm a loner. On the road,
rolling.
and I'm a loner. On the road, and I'm a road, and I'm a loner. On the road, and I'm a loner.
Hey, check.
On the road, I'm a
All right, we're good. The only thing you gotta do. Good.
I don't even know what the time is, just as far as whenever we're loading in, but I don't think we're in time.
Okay,
restrictions.
cool. All right, great. Dude, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm okay with everything.
This cord, if you're not careful, it'll kind of do it like pop, pop, pop if you don't hold it still.
Okay.
So sorry to give you that restriction right off the bat.
Right.
But pop, pop, pop. No pop pops if we do this. All right, we're good. You know, I think just having context for folks who are listening to this in the future, Jen Ross is here, and y'all just had like a really beautiful moment. And I was gonna kind of get into sort of the spirit behind what y'all just shared, because this sort of thing came up. I always put on our Patreon. I always ask our patrons if they have questions for the guests ahead of time. And Jordan, one of our patrons, said, "Slim is one of my favorite artists. Got me through some tough, lonely times. I wonder if it's gotten easier or harder to love the way he does."
Easier or harder to love?
Yeah. Over the last few years, like a lot has happened in your life. You've overcome a lot.
Yeah, easier or harder for me to,
For you
to
personally.
express love or to
Or-
receive love or...
Let's explore it all.
Damn, Jordan.
Yeah.
Hit me with it again, just so
All right. So, man, if that one hits you, wait till you get the second part of Jordan's question.
Let me hear that.
Yeah, Slim is one of my favorite artists. Got me through some tough, lonely times. I wonder if it's gotten easier or harder to love the way he does. He strikes me as someone who embodies radical grace and love. Just wondering if it's natural or deliberate.
Jordan. So there is the side of me that is a musician and a performer and a connector when I'm doing it right on stage, and so there's something that comes through me or over me that is that's outside of my understanding, that I think is a form of radical love. I'm able to things sort of slow down and things sort of make sense to me. Then there's a side of me that is a son and a partner and a brother and a friend. And there's always, has it become easier or harder? I think there's so many different kinds of ways that one can express love that I don't know if it's become easier or harder. The way that I always felt like I was engaging with an elevated energy or spirit, and that was a collective connection with an audience through music. It's a lot easier and more consistent when I'm not fucked up. So I'll put it. I could try to get to making some sense by saying that.
Yeah.
Whereas before, when I was drunk all the time or on drugs, I was chasing a feeling of love that I could find every once in a while, that I felt open and warm within my own skin, but I was chasing it and it would elude me. So every once in a while there'd be a great show or a great connection. So when I'm not existing in that, I can be more present and more open and all that sort of thing. But I mean, every day I wake up, I feel somewhat out of my damn mind, and so I have to kind of work on that. And music was a thing that I've always come to, and that I don't think I've ever totally perverted. Drugs and alcohol and the chase for other sorts of love are things that I probably perverted, and so those things made it harder to love. So I guess it's something I gotta wake up. Jordan, you're getting a long answer, and maybe some of these words will make sense, but
He's gonna be so happy with this.
I really have to wake up every day and find some gratitude and find some stillness, and really work on like changing my perspective often, because my perspective can be very inward. Upon awakening, I can feel a lot of thoughts about myself, and that they can be not the most friendly, and so it's just sort of like trying to get out of myself. And so yeah, it's a work in progress. I wouldn't say it's easier or harder. I would say with what I've been through personally in the last few years, it's more playful. The pursuit of loving myself more, and then in doing that, loving others. Yeah.
Woo.
And interview over.
Wow, that was perfect. We have the most amazing Patreon patrons. Patreon.com/Marinade Podcast, everybody, if you want to get your questions in next time. Man, can you say, so you just like connected again, you have this way of connecting with people. You just connected to something for me that I want to ask you a little bit more about, and that is, and I wonder if it has to do with age. Like, I'm about 3 months younger than you, right? My birthday's coming up. I'll turn 42 next week.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think I'm waking up feeling out of my mind more and more every day. I've built routines and systems and character to where I'm managing it. But I do feel like life is hitting me harder and harder as I get older. And I wonder what for me, the out of my mind feels almost like out of control. Not that my personal choices are out of control, but that I don't have my arms around things the way that I maybe expected to at this point in my life or whatever. What does the being out of your mind feel like to you, and how are you processing it?
I try to lean into and embrace the feeling of not having my arms around some of the bigger questions that I think a lot of us have, because I don't know that I ever felt like I would have that all. But for me, man, it's not necessarily about... I can attach the feeling to a situation, but it isn't really situational. I think for me, most of my life, though, waking up and feeling out of my mind, or issues with anxiety or depression or something, often were not situational. They would come up and I didn't know why they were there, but they then colored and covered the lens in which I viewed life and behaved. So then there would be situations that contributed to it because I was sort of perpetuating, or just everything looked that way. So I don't have a great routine. I've got more of a routine at this point. It's like growing up as a grown-up. What a concept.
I
didn't
know,
do
right?
it when I was younger because I was doing what I'm still doing, but I'm not. But I was not accountable to myself, and I'm sure to others. Like I kind of let any day take me where the wind blew me that day, and that to me was some sort of like, I'm a passionate boy and I live outside of the law of society, and I still have a rebellious spirit, but I often find that it's more to the detriment of myself. It's not a matter of like following some institution or society's rules, but like setting up a routine for myself that's fulfilling, and that when I do it, I feel better. Like if I like exercise or meditate when I wake up, or if I wake up at a certain time, which I don't really do.
Yeah.
I wake up kind of when I wake up. That's like one of a bunch of things. Like if I allow myself just these kind of like loose ends, I tend to feel more out of control with it all. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I sort of talk about this on stage sometimes. Like I learned in the last so many years that I don't need like global pandemics, or we had a big tornado in Nashville, like tornado, social unrest, political unrest, to feel like I'm losing my fucking mind. I've been an expert at feeling like I'm losing my mind, and not to say I always do.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't want to make this totally about
yeah.
But yeah, that stuff I can kind of point to it, and it certainly has been a heavy time for a lot of people, and I think a beauty of it is that a lot more people are talking and can relate on certain subjects of like mental health and addiction and stuff, which are subjects that are near and dear to my life.
Yeah.
But I found like, I got clean and sober again right before the pandemic hit, so that was huge for me. Mm-hmm. We were forced to be still in lockdown to some extent, so I know that was terrible for a lot of people, and it wasn't great for me every day, but it forced me to like sit down, to engage in some things like a recovery community, which the first time I got clean, I didn't do any of that sort of thing. It forced me to like reflect in ways. I started doing therapy. I started to sort of have an exercise with my guitar and my music that I would just play through, whether or not I thought it was the greatest thing or a piece of shit. And I just was like, just play, to get out of my own way and play, just because it's fun to play music and to sing.
Yeah.
Which I wish that sentiment would just stick with me, and I would always just kind of live my life. I love to talk about it, but it's something I'm constantly trying to get back to get out of my own way, here, and then I'll stop with this. But
this is so great.
A buddy of mine, he told me that it was him or a friend of his, I can't remember, but they have a friend who was passing, and he was an older guy, went to see him, and they were having conversations like probably like you and I are having, and the dude asked the other guy, what would you have done different? Would you have done any of it different? And the guy looked at him and was like, I would have worried less.
Oh, Jesus.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
Dude.
Fucking mic drop.
Yeah.
So it's like, I love to have these conversations and pontificate, not even I love to like analyze and to try to figure things out and how to, but it's just like, when there's a dude that's about to like take his last breath and that's what he's saying, it's like, why do we make it so hard?
Yeah.
And I don't think not worrying means not caring.
Yeah.
You know? I want to care.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I was born with some kind of nervousness in me, and I haven't gotten it out of me since.
Yeah.
And all of that isn't bad either. I think some of that propels us to do what we do in ways. But it's just, you know, where is it helping and where is it hurting? The worry, the stress, the bullshit, like the monkey mind. With all due respect to monkeys, who I love and adore.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. You mentioned accountability in that, and it sounds like at some point.
I might have just clicked this thing off.
Uh-oh.
I don't think I did. Is
You're
it
on.
No. Okay. Good.
Wait. Yep. You're on.
Good.
I forgot my fucking headphones, and so I can't. Looks like we're getting it, so we should be okay.
I think we're good.
Stuff's bouncing.
Yeah. That must mean we're good.
That's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Because I was worrying too much. Because this morning I got a fucked up neck and I was worrying about everything getting done and getting here on time. And I was worried about making sure that I was, you know, prepared for this.
Yeah.
And of course everything's fine and this is the most wonderful interview and there's no fucking point in worrying about it all.
No.
It was all going to take care of itself. It was all going to be okay.
It's the stories that we tell ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like another great, and a lot of people have said this in powerful ways, but Daniel Johnston said something like, the meanest thing anybody ever said about me, I said about myself. And that was another one where I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
But I do that all the time, man. You worry. What's this going to be like? What's this person going to, you know, and it's just like, that's like how do we give up that obsession with control that we never have anyway? Like, how do we just turn that over, you know, still caring but not trying to fucking, like I said before, I used to just think it was passion and I was just like an odd fella, which I think I am an odd fella in my own way and a passionate man, but like strangling things, not literally, but you know, you're just strangling situations,
taking the life from them,
taking the life out, not letting the whatever that divine energy is to get in there and do what it does.
Yeah. Well, how does that manifest in your creative process? I mean, when you're talking about accountability earlier, it sounds like you became more accountable to your work. Is that accurate?
Well, when
I'm thinking a lot about the tornado.
Yeah. So
recovery.
I was becoming accountable for myself with a particular set of situations kind of guiding me back to my home in Nashville and my couch and my cat and my guitar, and I wasn't chasing drugs and I couldn't go and chase a lady over here or over there. So, you know, I had a relapse that lasted several years and it was gnarly, and I got myself pretty much completely blocked from whatever the line or the source to my writing abilities, you know, that kind of just wasn't happening. And so when I got to clean again, I was feeling better. Music started to show up, and I guess I was accountable to it because I was showing up for it, and the melodies were showing up and words were showing up, and I would sat there and wrote the songs or followed them. I think it's just like I feel like I learn some things sometimes, and then I'm shown that maybe there's nothing to learn. There probably is something to learn, but I just haven't learned it yet. I don't know. But, you know, now in the last few months, I've just been touring. And when I'm home, I don't feel like I have that access to the line, to this, you know, because I want the song all the time.
Yeah.
Just like I want everything that I want it when I want it.
Yeah.
And I tend to want it now.
Yeah.
So I still have, I would say at times, a negative outlook on I love to talk about, well, you know, to with writing, or if you're an artist of any sort, you kind of just have to have the trust and trust the flow, and it's okay to shut up when there's nothing there and come back to say something when there is, and fuck this constant content with all this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, I believe those things intellectually.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a slut for wanting the song and wanting the whatever it is that I so desire.
Yeah.
I want it, man.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see how it goes out. I'm hoping after this tour, I'll have some time to do whatever it is I do, where hopefully songs show up. But yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm answering the question. I never got down like a routine or an accountability to myself where I was like, yeah, I used to think that didn't sound sexy, and now I do. Like this sort of like, I clock in at 9 in the morning, and I got my pen and my guitar. It's like I never did that, and it seemed like a different kind of way of doing it than I understood.
I feel like now, at least, maybe I totally get what you're saying about it didn't sound sexy, but I think now in my life that I find that incredibly attractive for myself. Too. Like I find that like that's the work I want to do.
Totally.
I want to show up at the desk every day.
And what are we, if we're super passionate and obsessed about these things that we love to do, writing or whatever the thing is, then if I'm not putting the time in to do it, or something to feed it in some kind of real nurturing way, I'm worrying about it. So there you go.
There's where the worry goes. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about therapy, my therapist just like checks in to make sure that I'm writing. Because she knows that that's going to help to quell my anxiety.
Right.
That's going to stave it off.
And maybe you have fear before you pick up the pen that it's not going to come out, or I don't know, if you do. But sometimes a melody comes up, words come up, and then that feels good, and then I'm almost like in another land, and I'm following the trail of the song. But if I'm like, I'm gonna sit down and try to work on this thing, it gives me anxiety. Even the thought, like people will say to me, because they are nice, how's the writing going?
Yeah.
Got any new music coming out?
Yeah.
I want to fucking strangle them. Like, don't ask me that. But what is that? And I know I'm not the only one. It's like, what the fuck is that?
Not gonna ask you that.
Anyway, is that what you just did?
No, there's nothing on the page.
That's funny.
But I bet you get that all the fucking time.
I do. Not all the time, but I get that from time to time. And I guess it only bothers me when I don't know the answer, or I don't feel like I put something out recently enough. Like if I'm writing and shit's feeling good, or if I know I got something coming out soon, oh yeah, I love that. I love to be asked.
Yeah.
Have an answer. Yeah. But if I'm just kind of, not sure where, when, or how, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
Strawberry Mansion, I want to ask you about. I listened to it like 3 times last night, and just was kind of like sitting with the songs, and there were a few moments that really stood out to me. And there's this lyric in Something Higher where it says, "You lie to the children, you try to steal their voice. In death there may be forgiveness, but in life there is but a choice." Do you remember writing that song? Do you remember when that came to you and what it felt like?
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's supposed to be like a protest song, a song about us collectively, in my view, getting sold a lie. I mean, I think that a lot of our mental health and all kinds of health issues stem from a lot of things, but I think one of those things is that we're disconnected in many ways from nature, from our creativity, from perhaps a spiritual, however one might want to define that. I know it's a bit vast, but like a spiritual way of being. Certainly when I'm more in line with connecting with others, or I'm taught in stuff that I'm involved in now to be of service to others. Then when I'm singing with others, dancing, creating, when I'm able to put my feet into the ocean or a river, these things, I feel more connected just like that. So I think, I'm somebody that struggled a lot in school, and I felt like they were lying. I felt like I didn't believe them as a little kid, and I would tell them that, and that got me in trouble. And as I've grown up, you could take it in all different angles, but I think of it just, in the music sense or in the art sense, it's like, you play a show and you see all these kids just boogieing and shaking and dancing and smiling, and maybe not worrying what genre the music is, the color of skin the person that's playing the music, on and on and on and on. And kids can be so free with their own creativity. Like my girlfriend's got a 6-year-old, and I'm seeing it all the time with how free she is just with her expression. And then we kind of get taught to behave.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we numb out to these things that I think are divinely put into us, and that makes us, I think, sick in a lot of ways. That's my short, even though that was a long answer, that was my short answer.
Dude, so I'm an educator, and I think that's why that song in particular connects with me so much, because I think that's the headspace I was in as I was listening to that, was just thinking about, as someone who works with middle school students, asking myself those same questions.
Well, and may I say, sorry to interrupt you, I have so much respect. My mom's a teacher, my brother's a teacher, and I have so much admiration, respect for a lot of teachers.
Yeah.
And I don't blame the teacher necessarily. It's a bigger sort of a thing. I think and I don't have a solution. It's like, how do you set up a situation that can feed every kind of kid? It's just like, for some of us, we excel at these numbers, or we excel at this or this or this, and then for other ones, you can think that you're dumb, and then if you're not given some opportunity, you start to get in trouble, and then if you're really not given some opportunity for these certain kinds of reasons, you wind up in bad trouble. And it's I know it's a little bit more complicated than that, but I've just seen how that can work. Thank God I have music, and I had some opportunity, because I could just as easily been in jail for a long time, or living on the street for a long time.
Do you think school, for you, do you think that contributed to your worry or your anxiety or some of the mental health challenges that you've faced?
Yeah. Sure. But I also think it built some character. And I also wound up having some amazing experiences, and got kicked out of a public school that was extremely kind of soul-sucking and narrow for me, and challenging. And then talk about opportunity. I had the opportunity to go to this little private kind of alternative school that was like, you're not dumb. You're actually really smart in these other ways, and we can try to nurture those things. You just can't yell at the teachers and be a little bitch anymore. Yeah, and if you could stop being a little jerk, you could stay here, and we will encourage you. So, and then I had some amazing teachers. But yeah. What can you do?
Sure. Well, kind of flows naturally to ask you then. My new co-host Jordan, who's about to take my job, I think, had another interesting.
Jordan, the same guy that asked
Yeah. But Jen asked a similar question too. So what he asked was he was talking about like his relationship with his grandfather, and he was talking about how you talk a lot about your grandpa Sid, and
Jack,
and he said he wanted to know if there were like any particular stories that, when you think of them, come to mind when you think of your grandpas.
it's really strange because as you're asking me that, I'm like playing with this, and this was my grandpa Sid's. He gave this to me.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stories. There's a story that I tell sometimes on stage because I remembered it. So, okay, there's a neighborhood in Philadelphia that's called Strawberry Mansion. That's where that name for the album comes from.
Right.
And so there was a story that Jack, my grandfathers were good friends when they were kids and then knew each other throughout their lives. And my parents got together and my parents got untogether. But so Jack would tell a story when we were little that that I think is appropriate for what we're doing here, and it is as following. Yeah, let me just spit the fucking thing out. This is how Jack would tell it, sort of. There are these two little boys, and one of the boys put into a room, and this guy's got all these toys, every toy you could possibly want. And they close the door and they walk away, and they hear cursing and yelling and just miserable, restless, dissatisfied sounds coming from this little dude. And then there's this other little boy, and they put him into a room, no toys. All that he has is this mountain of horse poop. And he's put on this duty mountain, and he's given just a little shovel for his little boy hands, and they shut the door. As they walk away, they hear singing and laughter and just joyful sounds, and they run back to the room thinking this kid has gone totally mad. And they said, "Little boy, how can you be so joyful and so free, stuck in this room filled with horse poop?" And he says, "'Cause underneath all this shit, there must be a pony somewhere." So that's one from Grandpa Jack. Jack also taught us, I remember one time when I was really little, he said, as you go through life, there will inevitably be reasons to dislike certain people after you get to know them. So in the meantime, treat everybody equally. And I think that's a hell of a message to tell a little person.
Yeah.
And Sid was just my main man. Like he had a massive stroke when I was little. They thought he was gonna die. He never fully recovered, but lived for quite a few more years, and just had like a real. I feel like people say it too much now. Like I feel seen, but I felt seen.
Right
Sydney
on.
saw me.
Yeah.
And understood me, and I felt we had. We had, I don't know, something that that was very, very special.
Yeah, I mean, maybe people say I feel seen too much, but I just feel like it's really fucking important.
Yeah, it is really important. Yeah, I shouldn't poo-poo it.
Yeah.
I don't know a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
So, I just spend too much time on the internet, so I'm reading a lot of people are feeling seen or not feeling seen.
Yeah, yeah.
At some point, things start to lose their meaning.
I felt seen when you posted on Instagram about the fella dropping the note in your locker the other day. I was like, yeah, man.
And talk about a switch of perspective. I chose to have a funny perspective about that. Because when it first happened, I was like, not to say I can understand at all what it's like to be a lady.
Yeah.
But I was like, yo, that shit's pretty creepy. Like, we didn't have like a moment.
Yeah.
There's more to the story where that I didn't write about on there.
Some folks may not know the context.
I'm sure most people
just
won't.
Yeah.
I got a note from an elderly man at the gym saying, "I'm hoping not to offend, but I like what I saw," which is amazing and hilarious and wonderful.
Yeah.
However, I wasn't feeling well. I was on tour and I was in, it doesn't matter where I was, but I found a gym to go to because they had a steam room. And, I wasn't wearing anything under my pants. And I go into the locker and I take the pants off as one does. And I hear a voice. It wasn't as though we said hello or had engaged in any kind of, and he just goes, "Oh, free balling today, are we?" And I was like, what in the fuck? I was like, So, anyway. So I did text him, and now we're a hot item.
Yeah, what's he like?
Yeah.
Yeah. Seen that booty. Man, this has been such a pleasure. We usually end on the art that has you inspired at the moment. So it could be, we're listening to Katie Pruitt right now.
I
It
love
could be
Katie,
she's
yeah.
amazing. It could be that music that you're listening to. It could be art. It could be like a wonderful meme.
I
Or
actually do like kitty memes.
Yeah,
So
there's a-
Pruitt and kittens.
yeah.
I am inspired. I appreciate the connection because Katie and I are good friends at home, and we do keep talking about getting together when we're not on our tours and
Cool.
and writing something together. So that idea does inspire me, and
Hell yeah.
and singing with her would be great. So I feel like that sounds like an appropriate one with her belting in the background.
I know, right? Yeah, folks, listening. You've been listening to the sweet sounds of Katie Pruitt in the background. This is incredible. This incredible festival on this beautiful day, and
Yeah,
all this wonderful lineup. You're playing later. And Neil Francis is about to go on.
it's a beautiful lineup.
Just Margot's later. It's just an amazing, amazing day, dude. This has been. I mean, you've been on the short list of dream guests,
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
and this has been an absolute
Thank
delight,
you so much.
man. Thank you.
It's been a delight to talk to you. I appreciate the soul and the spirit of how you do this. Thanks to Jordan.
Yeah, man. Shout out Jordan. Shout
out
out
Jordan.
Patreon patrons. Patreon.com/Marinade Podcast, folks.
Hell yeah. Peace out, y'all.
All right.
Much love.
Langhorne Slim, y'all. Thank you so much, Slim. Thank all of you for listening. This was a truly special episode. It felt like one of the more Marinade community-oriented episodes. Having Jen there was just so cool. Getting to ask Jordan's wonderful questions was a treat. I'm just so thankful for these experiences. LanghorneSlimMusic.com for all things Langhorne Slim. All of his records are wonderful. I'm partial to Strawberry Mansion. That's his most recent release, but you can't go wrong. We caught up with Slim at the Orange Blossom Review Festival, where he was playing with the likes of Allison Russell, Margot Price, the Wood Brothers. Katie Pruitt can be heard playing her set in the background of this episode. More on that festival coming up on marinadepodcast.com very soon, including some of Jen Ross's best concert photography to date. If you've been following the Marinade throughout the last year or so, you know that I had the great honor of interviewing Allison Russell via Zoom. And at the end of that conversation, she learned of her Grammy nominations, her 3 Grammy nominations that were so well deserved. At Orange Blossom Review, I got to meet Allison in person, and she could not have been more Allison-y. She's such a sweet spirit and one of the most incredible performers I've ever seen. I want to thank Danielle and Rusty and Micah and everybody else involved with Orange Blossom Review for having us each year. They're all just top-notch professionals, and I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to cover that festival. MarinadePodcast.com for all things The Marinade, including written pieces, photography, our online store, and more. Give us a follow on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Subscribe and give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app. Tell a friend about the show. These are all free ways to support The Marinade. If you really like what we're doing, please consider joining our Patreon community, where for just a few bucks a month, you can gain access to Patreon exclusive content like our show Jason's Journey, where I talk about the moments that shape my creative life and provide a window into the process of making The Marinade. We have a brand new monthly show called What We're Getting Down On, which is a conversation between me and my good friend Peter Haroldson. The first episode is available for free at patreon.com/Marinade Podcast. I defended the much derided David O. Russell film Amsterdam during that episode. And Peter talked about his video game of the year, Citizen Sleeper. Check it out and let us know what you think. It was a lot of fun to make, and we hope you enjoy it half as much as we did making it. This is the perfect time to just take a chance to say thank you to our newest patron, Brian Reese, who I met through Peter many, many years ago. I'm just so thankful for you joining us, Brian. Patreon.com/Marinade Podcast if y'all are interested. If you want to support the show financially, but you don't want to commit to a monthly subscription, you can Venmo or PayPal us at The Marinade. All the money goes right back into making the show, and right now that means saving up to cover some festivals. We We've been invited to some very cool events and got to figure out how to pay for those experiences. So if you can swing it, even if you just want to give us a little tip on Venmo or PayPal, we greatly appreciate it. But above all, we're just thankful that you listen and spread the word about the Marinade. Until next time, go out and create something in 2023. Cheers, y'all.
On the road, and I'm a loner. On the road.